As I grow older, I'm learning that there is probably nothing more difficult on this planet than dealing with people. As a result, my mind has been wandering here and there, looking for answers relating to what makes dealing with people such an uphill task. And in my research, I have observed that some of the greatest minds in history have wrestled with this question and have come up with conclusions, some of which are very frustrating. Isaac Newton, for example, the greatest English mathematician of his time, had this to say, I quote, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." End of quote. And I find this statement quite intriguing because by the time a genius of Isaac Newton's caliber fails to calculate something, it must be complicated indeed. When I read this, I could not help but conclude that this madness must be a major contributor to the difficulties we encounter while dealing with people. And this reminds me of a short story about one psychiatric patient who, after being told that he was mad, responded in this way. He said, "Actually, all of us are mad. It's only that some of us put in more effort than others." Quite interesting. And I find a lot of sense in what this so-called madman said. Because the Bible itself says that we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And I think this verse refers to the madness that Isaac Newton failed to calculate. Elsewhere in the Bible, it says that if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. Similarly, if we say that we are not mad, we deceive ourselves. Because on a daily basis, we live and done what we ought to do, and we end up doing what we ought not to have done. So what other sign of madness do you need? Who is madder than a person who knows the good he should do, but refuses to do it? Is it not what we do every day? So, the next time you are tempted to point a finger at a mad person, remember the other fingers are pointing towards you, and they are declaring that you are actually more madder, many times madder, than the person you are pointing your finger to. Albert Einstein, one of the most influential scientists of the 20th century, had this to say, quote, "Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the universe." End of quote. When I read this, I asked myself, what could have prompted Albert Einstein to make such a statement? Then I thought that maybe, since he was a scientist, he probably was conducting some experiments in order to understand God's creation. And the results he obtained indicated the possibility of the universe being infinite, that is, being endless. But when it came to experimenting with human stupidity, the results were conclusive, that indeed human stupidity was infinite. So he was sure about that. So it shouldn't be surprising that people are very difficult to deal with. The rumors of wars that bombard us every day, increasing domestic violence, the rising number of broken marriages, violent protests in cities, coup d'etats, religious hatred, moral decadence of all sorts, and so on and so forth, are all testament to the human madness and stupidity that Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein respectively talked about. It's all chaos, and one wonders how it all will end. And I think this is why it is imperative that we have wise leaders. Because as I grow up, I have also come to learn that the principal role of a leader is to create order out of chaos. Marcus Aurelius was an example of such a leader. He was the last of the 5 good emperors that ruled the Roman Empire. And what made him good was that he had mastered the art of dealing with people in spite of their madness and stupidity. What was his secret? We find from his writings that he used to remind himself every morning that the people he would meet in the course of the coming day would be bad-tempered and rude, selfish and stupid. And Marcus reminded himself of this not to excuse himself from good behavior towards these people or to justify despair, but he wanted to prepare himself so that when he met these people, no one could implicate him in ugliness. In spite of these people's conduct, Marcus Aurelius was not going to give them a chance to hurt him or make him angry. He had to prepare to love them. He had to be ready and be good. So, can we learn from him? Because there is nowhere we are going to avoid dealing with people. Marcus is recorded as having said to himself once that whenever you have trouble waking up in the morning, remind yourself that you have been made by nature for the purpose of working with others. This is powerful. Whenever you have trouble getting up in the morning, remind yourself that you have been made by nature for the purpose of working with others. What he meant was that in spite of people's madness and stupidity, we have to work with them. And I think this is the same idea that Paul had in mind when he wrote in Romans chapter 12 that as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everybody. And everybody includes those who are rude, those who are stupid, those who are selfish, and so on and so forth. We therefore must wake up every day ready to be good to the bad and to love the unlovable. A Syrian king once approached one of the most prominent philosophers in ancient Rome called Musonius Rufus. I'm not sure what exactly he had come for, but I know what Musonius told him. He said, and I quote, "Do not imagine that it is more appropriate for anyone to study philosophy than for you, nor for any other reason than because you are a king." End of quote. In simple terms, he was saying, because you are a king, you must study philosophy. And the word philosophy is derived from 2 Greek words which mean love of wisdom. So in a way, he was telling him that a king has to love wisdom. And King Solomon in the Bible knew this very well. Because when he was made a king over God's chosen people, people who were great and too numerous to number or count, he said to God, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? This is a powerful display of humility on Solomon's part. I'm sure it's hard enough for some of us to govern a family of 3 people. So what about governing such a great number with all their madness, with all their stupidity? It takes divine wisdom. And that's why Solomon had to ask God for nothing else but wisdom. We may think we are not kings and therefore don't need Musonius' advice, or we don't need to learn from Solomon's example. But there's nothing more wrong than that. We are all kings in our own way. Are you a parent? You are a king to your children. Are you an in charge of a department? You are a king to your subordinates. Are you a teacher? There is no doubt that you are a king to the learners. Are you the CEO of an organization? You are a king to all the workers in the organization, and so on and so forth. So, to be able to manage the people under you, you need to seek wisdom like Solomon did. And in the words of Musonius, you need to study philosophy. Why? Because the first duty of a king, Musonius said, is to be able to protect and benefit his people. And a protector and benefactor must know what is good for a man and what is bad, what is helpful and what is harmful, what is advantageous and what is disadvantageous, and so on and so forth. And it is by study that you gain insight into what is good and bad, what is helpful and what is harmful, and what is advantageous and disadvantageous. As a parent, you are the benefactor and protector of your children. Therefore, you must know what is good for your children and what is bad. You must know what is helpful to them and what is harmful to them, what is advantageous and what is disadvantageous to them. Husbands, you are kings to your wives, and for that matter, you are their protector and you are their benefactors. You therefore must study to find out what is good for her and what is bad for her. And at this point, I recommend a book to all men and women that are married. And I think this can help us greatly in that direction. The book entitled Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus is very powerful. And I think if every married man or woman studied it, we would have very few malfunctioning marriages. If you are a CEO of an organization, you are a protector and benefactor of the people that are under you. And more than anyone else, you need to know what is good for the people that you lead and what is harmful to them. You need to know what is disadvantageous and what is advantageous for this. And for you, I recommend these 2 books, which I wish I had landed on when I was in my 20s. But no worry, it is never too late to do the right thing. I've already lived my past life. I want to pick what is left and leave it well. So I recommend these books to you, which I'm also reading alongside the Bible to find out whether what they say is true. Number 1 is The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And the second one is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene again. And if you read these books, you'll be well on your way to becoming a very good leader. Marcus Aurelius said this, and quote, "In a sense, people are our proper occupation. Our job is to do them good and put up with them. Our actions may be impeded by them, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." End of quote. Therefore, since people are our proper occupation, we must study them. That's why all leaders are readers. See you next time.